The Supreme Court has issued a ruling that will reverberate across every state in America, a decision that has stunned both gun rights advocates and critics alike. In an 8-1 vote, the nation's highest court has taken a step that many consider the most significant reinterpretation of the Second Amendment in decades. This ruling doesn't just tweak existing laws, it changes the landscape entirely. Millions of gun owners are now faced with the reality that what they once considered settled law has shifted overnight. This is more than a legal technicality. It's a fundamental alteration of constitutional rights as they apply to firearms, and it demands immediate attention from anyone who owns, carries, or plans to own a firearm. This ruling has triggered a nationwide wave of concern because it doesn't simply adjust regulations. It actively opens the door to large-scale confiscation measures. States that have historically relied on permit systems, background checks, or age restrictions now find themselves grappling with an entirely new legal framework. The 8-1 ruling demonstrates the court's clear intent. Traditional methods of regulating firearms may no longer hold constitutional weight under the new interpretation of the Second Amendment. The dissenting opinion, while vocal, was overpowered by the majority's firm stance that citizens' rights to own and carry firearms cannot be diluted by state or federal bureaucracies without extremely compelling justification. For many gun owners, this is both alarming and empowering. On one hand, certain restrictions that previously limited the ability to carry or transport firearms may now be unenforceable, signaling a restoration of rights that have been steadily eroded over decades. On the other hand, the ruling simultaneously authorizes mechanisms for immediate confiscation in circumstances defined by the new interpretation, leaving many Americans uncertain about how to act within the bounds of the law. Understanding what this ruling actually entails is critical because failing to comprehend the full scope could result in inadvertent violations or missed opportunities to exercise rights responsibly. The decision centers on a series of legal arguments that address the balance between individual liberty and public safety. The court meticulously examined historical precedent, the original intent of the Second Amendment, and modern considerations about the proliferation and misuse of firearms. One of the key elements of the ruling is its emphasis on the government's role in enforcing or restricting rights. The majority opinion underscores that states cannot impose broad restrictions or arbitrary permits that effectively deny citizens access to firearms. However, it simultaneously lays out conditions under which firearms may be confiscated, particularly in instances tied to criminal activity, threats to public safety, or failure to comply with narrowly defined legal requirements. This nuanced approach is why the decision is being described as both groundbreaking and complex. For gun owners, it is essential to understand the immediate consequences. First, there will be a period of adjustment as state and federal agencies interpret the ruling and apply it to existing laws. Many states will need to amend their statutes, while some may attempt to challenge aspects of the ruling in lower courts or via legislative measures. Compliance becomes both a responsibility and a protective measure for citizens. Those who fail to adjust their practices or stay informed may unintentionally fall afoul of new enforcement measures. It is crucial to pay attention to official guidance and legal interpretations from trusted sources in the coming weeks and months. The ruling also has a profound impact on the firearms industry and related sectors. Gun manufacturers, retailers, and distributors will have to adapt to a new legal environment that may alter sales, transfers, and record-keeping practices. Legal teams within these industries are already reviewing procedures to ensure full compliance with the Supreme Court's directives. This ruling, therefore, extends beyond individual gun owners. It reshapes the responsibilities of every participant in the firearms market, from private sellers to large commercial chains. Anyone involved in the sale or transfer of firearms must understand both the opportunities and risks created by this landmark decision. One of the most talked about elements of the ruling is the potential for large-scale confiscation in specific scenarios. While the decision reaffirms the fundamental right to own firearms, it also clarifies that this right is not unlimited. Certain categories of individuals, such as those convicted of violent felonies or determined to pose a substantial risk to public safety, may be subject to confiscation orders. States are now tasked with developing legal mechanisms to implement these provisions while respecting constitutional boundaries. Gun owners should be particularly attentive to any notifications, court orders, or legal requirements that might apply to them individually. Understanding the exact conditions under which confiscation is permitted is crucial to maintaining compliance while protecting personal rights. The ruling also emphasizes the interplay between federal and state authority. While the Second Amendment is a federal guarantee, states have historically exercised considerable discretion in regulating firearms within their borders. The Supreme Court's 8-1 decision narrows the scope of this discretion, signaling that many state-imposed barriers may no longer be enforceable. This will undoubtedly prompt legislative reviews, lawsuits, and administrative action in states across the country. Gun owners must monitor these developments closely to ensure that their actions remain lawful and to avoid unexpected penalties or legal challenges. Public reaction to the ruling has been swift and intense. Advocacy groups on both sides of the debate have mobilized to either defend the court's interpretation or push for modifications. Gun rights organizations celebrate the reaffirmation of constitutional protections, while gun control advocates warn of potential risks to public safety. The media has extensively covered the ruling, emphasizing its immediate implications and projecting its long-term effects on American society. For individual gun owners, this coverage is a reminder of the importance of staying informed and proactive. Knowledge of how the ruling is implemented in your state and community is just as important as understanding the legal text itself. Education and preparedness are now more critical than ever. With permits eliminated nationwide and the potential for targeted confiscation, gun owners must ensure that they fully comprehend firearm safety, storage, and usage laws. Voluntary training courses, secure storage solutions, and understanding self-defense statutes are all essential components of responsible ownership in this new legal environment. The court's ruling does not diminish the responsibility of gun owners. Rather, it places an even greater emphasis on understanding and exercising rights safely and lawfully. In addition to individual responsibilities, this ruling may influence future legal battles and legislative efforts. By setting a precedent for a broader interpretation of the Second Amendment, the Supreme Court has opened the door for challenges to other firearm restrictions, such as magazine limits, assault weapon bans, or waiting periods. Conversely, it has also outlined boundaries for permissible government intervention, particularly regarding confiscation in well-defined circumstances. Understanding these implications helps gun owners anticipate changes, protect their rights, and engage in advocacy or public discourse effectively. The social and political ramifications are equally profound. This ruling has reignited national conversations about the balance between constitutional rights and public safety. Communities, lawmakers, and advocacy groups are now forced to reevaluate policies that were previously taken for granted. Gun owners, in particular, face a unique responsibility to exercise their rights judiciously, ensuring that the restored freedoms do not inadvertently contribute to public harm. Civic engagement, informed debate, and active participation in local decision-making processes are now more important than ever. Finally, it is essential for every gun owner to maintain vigilance. This ruling represents a historic shift, but the landscape will continue to evolve. Monitoring state legislation, court rulings, and administrative guidance is key to ensuring compliance and protecting personal rights. Resources such as legal advisors, advocacy groups, and official government channels can provide guidance and clarification. Staying connected to these resources allows gun owners to make informed decisions, exercise their rights safely, and adapt to a rapidly changing legal environment. In conclusion, the Supreme Court's 8-1 ruling has sent shockwaves across the United States. By ending traditional firearm permit systems while establishing conditions for lawful confiscation, the court has fundamentally reshaped the Second Amendment's practical application. Gun owners now face unprecedented opportunities and responsibilities. Understanding the scope, limitations, and practical implications of this ruling is critical. By staying informed, prepared, and vigilant, citizens can protect their rights, exercise them safely, and navigate this historic moment with clarity and confidence.